Commander Log. The year 33,004, December 1 2, Natural Region. I'm going
To be completely honest, I don't think they'll ever find me. Part of me had hoped that there was someone coming after me, but I think I'm alone. I can't even remember how long it's been. I can barely remember what it was like before. That was how the solar system closed, its vaulted gateway of the purest crystal, and severed spaceship Aniara's company from all the bonds and pledges of the sun. I've always believed that at some point we will leave. For good. Odds are we're running the Earth into the ground just before we hit the starting line, but we'll make it. Call it the indomitable human spirit, or just self-asserted superiority in place of what is just essentially hard-coded recklessness, but there's something about it. I can't not believe. Less than 60 years. That was all it took from the Wright brothers' first successful attempt at defying all we knew of the reins that supposedly held us terra firma to Yuri Gagarin's first glance at our blue marble. 60 years. Well, 58 if you want to be really pedantic. That took us from being isolated, lonely, and separated apes doomed to spend our lives spinning around aimlessly in the solar system to something beyond that. A first true step towards the unknown. We'll get there. As long as there's a human being somewhere, they'll carry the legacy of an entire species. Just like the explorers, the thrill seekers, the researchers, the heroes, the bandits, and the stalkers sneaking around the remnants of our world, as long as there's a single one of us left, they'll remember when a part of our world ended. But the biggest step into the unknown? Is there anyone who will remember that? This idea of leaving the Earth obviously isn't new. Depending on how liberal you want to be with your definitions, the first recorded tale of lifting off into the void might be something from 6,000 years ago with the myth of Etana, but for as long as life on Earth has dared to look up, we've asked, what is out there? And that never really stopped. 1898 saw H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. 1956 was the year of Nobel Prize laureate in Aniara, and the 1970s had both Star Trek and wars firing on all cylinders. Science fiction, space fantasy, operas about the never-ending unknown naturally spoke to people tapping into that very central human pull, painting a picture for that last big horizon. Just like the real-world equivalent, however, if you want to blast off into the cosmos, it will cost you. And it's no surprise that as the modern media landscape slowly developed with cinemas, televisions, and home computers, the budgets for telling stories expanded. If you could just tell a slightly better tale than your neighbor, that big leap would be yours. And making that leap in a spaceship? Well, soon that was something best done by multi-million-dollar studios and legendary directors. Painting up a picture of an entire galaxy all within your reach isn't exactly something you could do in your dorm room now, is it? Computer games had scores. They had a time limit. They would give the player 3 lives. That was the formula of video games in the 1980s, at least according to Cambridge undergraduate David Braben in an interview for Channel 5 in the UK. Computer games were the new hotness in this rapidly changing media landscape. By 1984, BBC microcomputers were in 150,000 British homes, and that number was only ever going to go up. And yet, Braben felt like it had already grown stale. These expectations, rules, and formulas had almost, as he so succinctly put it, almost become written in stone. Which, as he also so succinctly put it, was utterly ridiculous. You know what else would be kind of utterly ridiculous? Well, How about having 32 kilobytes of memory and then trying to somehow fit a whole galaxy in there? Well, yeah. They went for 8. It can't be that hard. That was the mindset of a teenage Braben when he decided he'd be one of the first in the world to develop 3D graphics on a home computer. It can't be that hard. Well, in the 1980s, it sure was. Many companies looked at the prospect as an impossibility. The amount of memory simply wasn't there to maintain the illusion. It was a money pit to even try. Too expensive, too difficult, and not nearly enough demand. But then, there it was, a spinning spaceship in full 3D on that tiny little monitor hooked up to his Acorn Atom. And then, there it was, an idea. What if this was a game? What if this was an answer to that age-old question, what is out there? (1984's Elite). The British spaceflight game was one of the first fully 3D computer games, offering the player complete 360-degree freedom to maneuver their spaceship in one of the first completely open worlds, spanning 8 galaxies and 2,000 planets. What David Braben and Ian Bell achieved here cannot be overstated. Elite was unbelievable. At the time, I can only imagine, but even now, booting up the bundled emulator they ship it with, it feels like cheating. It should not be possible for a game running on this hardware to be this. It should have a score. It should have a 10-minute timer. Where are my 3 lives? And given that, it's almost as big of a miracle that they actually somehow found a way to sell it. It was crucial for Bell to not underestimate the players. He said in that same Channel 5 interview, they might be used to the formula, but if Braben and him managed to design an immersive enough world, they could figure it out, surely. And so to call Elite a game might be completely missing the point. It was a universe, completely open for you to do what you felt like. Engage pirates in space combat, get rich trading commodities, or succumb to that longing and head off into the dark to explore the far reaches. And of those 150,000 BBC microcomputers in the UK at the time, well, soon all of them took to space. When they first pitched the game, they got rejected for these very reasons. They weren't seeing what was there, in their own words, because, well, what was there was nothing. Not anything, but nothing. Carefully, cautiously designed and engineered nothing. The universe they had built had, for 1984, an unfathomable amount of choice, but it was also unfathomably expansive, just like a universe would be. So, filling the void in between all the planets and stations and star systems was nothing. You don't stand on the cliffs, waves violently crashing below, looking out at the endless, vast void of the unknown without feeling something. Fear, horror, excitement, whatever it is, it's impossible for it not to invoke some primal feeling. The unknown offers a pull like nothing else, forever taunting us, blanketing the entire sky, billions upon billions of places, of worlds, of planets, of potential graves out there. A million ways to die, a million ways to burn up on re-entry, a million ways to peacefully pass in a colony ship, a million ways to slowly suffocate in the endless void. More than likely, they'd be our end. But it's impossible not to feel something.
Commander Log. The year 33,009, September 29, Eternition.
I think I heard a voice. Not on the radio, that's been silent for I don't know how long, but out there. I'm pretty sure. Thus, given over to the shock-stiff void, we spread the call sign Aniara wide. In glass-clear boundlessness, but picked up nothing. In 1984, the world of computer gaming changed. Elite, while not being the most accessible or mass-marketable release of all time, fundamentally altered the trajectory of the industry. Almost a decade later, in '93, Elite 2 came out, closely trailed by First Encounters 2 years later. Two follow-ups that might not have been seen as equally revolutionary, but that was probably simply because of the fact that they had the task of one-upping the original. Just like the movies and TV shows, space computer games were now in full swing. TIE Fighters, X-Wing, Star Fox, and Wing Commander, whatever platform you had, you could soon dive into the unknown. Masterpieces in their own right, but Elite was always different. There was an unlimited amount of excitement to be found in the combat of the quickly appearing contemporaries, and while Elite in any of its entries wasn't a slouch here either, it had something else. Something crucially different, creeping in from all sides, flanking every angle, something... nothing.
These are ancient tomes. It's like scavenging through a library, keeping record of the before times. It's a little dramatic, I know, but at some point floppy disks will be the antediluvian artifacts of our time. And the last Elite, well, that released a full year before I drew my first breath, so while I was force-fed a pretty steady diet of Amiga 500 growing up, the Elite franchise was only ever something I read about. Well, until 2014.
Constant hints expressed longings to return from one of the series' creators, rumors and wish lists among the community. One day, it happened. 17 years after the third installment on the still fairly new Kickstarter.com, a new title popped up. Elite Dangerous. The next generation return to space. It was supposed to be a true follow-up. No holds barred to improve and expand on everything that had come decades before. And it would be up to you. Enlist and fight in a war. Become a pirate, bounty hunt to your heart's content. Trade in a constantly revolving and reacting economy, keeping the wheels of war turning, or make a killing hauling exotic goods to far-flung systems. Gear up for months on the frontier and claim never-before-seen worlds in your own name. All in a multiplayer, always online, always active galaxy. And not just any galaxy, but ours, the Milky Way, completely recreated. 1,000 years into the future, 400 billion star systems present and accounted for.
I had just started university. I was in a 7 a.m. programming lecture that I had been late to. I was sitting there scrolling my phone, as you do. That's when I saw it. It was an advertisement for a game called Elite Dangerous. Instantly, the name rung a bell, and it was just one paragraph, but I remember reading it over and over. It was said that they had fit the entire galaxy in there. To our best estimations and calculations, all 400 billion star systems. And you could visit them all. So on my way home, I swung by the local computer shop, picked up my first HOTAS, and signed up for the beta. And then, well... and I completely flunked out of university.
The Sidewinder Mark I. The first seat any new commander would find themselves in. 30 years since the first foray into the void, a whole new generation of tech, a whole new group of people, a whole new audience, all of which would find themselves here.
Detach confirmed. Watch for oncoming traffic when passing through the airlock.
In the year 3300, thousands of people setting out for the first time experienced exactly this. The allure of Elite Dangerous attracted everyone who had ever looked up and wondered. A whole galaxy full of possibilities, a life waiting to be lived among the stars, but in true Elite fashion, it refused to hold your hand. That first white-knuckled grip of the flight stick, desperately trying to keep your new machine under control, eventually making it out of the station, narrowly avoiding the far richer commanders shuttling in their steel behemoths, the system authority scans blaring through your ship PA, 1,000 micro-impressions, all seemingly out to end you while you're balancing the never-ending tightrope of careening off course. It felt like hell, like everything and everyone was against you, just like a universe would. The first hours of Elite Dangerous are one of those magical moments that you wish you could relive again and again, and yet you don't, because you're constantly wondering what you just got yourself into. The galaxy is full of players so much bigger than you, offering you missions that most definitely will send you out to get completely obliterated. What module do you even upgrade? What faction do you join? How do I know what station will pay for these black boxes? It's overwhelming and sometimes feels so vague and unforgiving that you can't help but to throw your hands up. But then there's that click. The orange glow of the system HUD coming online for the first time. The initial pre-flight checklist counting you down. The little package strapped in for dear life behind you. The BBC micro-reminiscent terminal to your left. The structural piece of duct tape always reminding you. This is the smallest, most inexpensive ship capable of faster-than-light travel that Falcon de Lacy makes. It's rough, it's crude, it's unrefined, but it's yours. When that click happens, it all flips. The galaxy is still hostile, still unforgiving, still refusing to shepherd you in the slightest, but in that lies the beauty. It's a galaxy that doesn't care at all, but that click also carries an echo that soon washes that little sidewinder aside for something else, something more refined, something more expensive, something more purpose-built. A couple 100,000 credits of blood, sweat, and tears traded in for the next rung of the ladder. A hauler to start your trading empire, a cobra to leave civilization behind, or why not a combat-ready viper to finally get some revenge on those pirates that got you before you knew better. And once Elite pushes you in one of these more niched roles, another core tenet of the game becomes clear. It cares just as much about being a game as it does being a sim. Now, naturally, the level of every switch recreated that you see in DCS, it is not. But you can't tell me the game doesn't deeply care about the spaceship fantasy while having you manage system power, hardpoints, temperature, emissions, cargo scoops, shield banks, flight assist, targeting computers, 1,000 things more. On top of the power draw of all of these modules, it revels in the science fiction of it all. I'm sure there are loopholes to make the thing actually playable, but for the world they've built, it's wholly holistic and immersive beyond anything. That little viper, now deftly weaving around asteroids seeking out the ones that prey on unsuspecting miners, carrying a hefty Federation-issued bounty, your new home. This connection is at the very core of your journey through the galaxy. A ship, a home, a friend that you quickly learn the quirks and the drawbacks of, the temperament and the upsides. You meld into one. One day, your first bounty claimed, the next, your first million credits accrued in blood money, and then maybe a pilot for hire. Visiting combat zones on behalf of the Empire, slowly building up your rank to get that ever luxurious, only available to the most loyal servants of the Empire, the Imperial Clipper. Lowly bounty hunter, no more. You're in the Empire now. Whether pledged to the Empress or one of the outsiders vying for the throne, the Empire needs to keep the wheels of war turning, and the Empire is rich. Why put your life on the line being the hotshot in the sights of battle-hardened feds when your new Clipper can net you millions upon millions, hauling anything the war machine requires? Another core tenet of Elite Dangerous, the entire galaxy is simulated. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If a war is being fought in a system, the side that has the best commanders, the biggest force, and the most material wins, and the system is controlled by the victor. A constant tug of war all over the galaxy, all controlled by the player, be they little skirmishes or world-ending capital class clashes.
Warning, capital class signature detected.
But the galaxy isn't purely driven by conflict. Systems have economies requiring different things, goods and services to thrive. So load up the cargo racks with medical supplies, weapons, or imperial slaves, wave by to the ATC, jump over to the station in need, and rake in the profits. It's simple, player-driven supply and demand on a galactic scale, and sure, you'd make more money if you traded in your Clipper for a Type 9, but you're in the Empire. So you bask, and you ship, and you haul, and you deliver, all while reminding everyone who you are. The wheels of war are turning. The Empire is growing, and soon you're on top, right beside the Empress herself in all her glory. That Sidewinder will always be your first love, but the time has come. 220 million credits, bone stock. Another billion to outfit, but then, of course, it is. You're in the Empire, and after thousands of deliveries, this is your home. The top of the line, most extravagant piece of engineering ever created. Only available to kings and dukes of the Empire, the Imperial Cutter. Gripping the flight stick so hard that you can't let go, to shining just as bright as the stars that used to horrify you. Your journey has taken countless hours of trial and error, forcibly making a place for yourself in this galaxy. But this is only one path of a possible million upon millions upon millions. Should you have gone all in with the Federation instead, supporting Sol and defending the powers that won World War III? Or should you have thrown the whole power struggle away and gone with the Alliance? Or why not bolster an independent faction in a small system, effectively running it completely? Or what the hell, screw it all. Humanity is facing an extraterrestrial threat, and every pilot is needed to fend off the oncoming assault. There are a million ways to play Elite Dangerous, and all of them, to some extent, require you to find your own motivation to decide why you're taking that path, be it cold hard credits, the morals that most closely align, the charisma of their leader winning your commander over, hundreds of thousands of pilots, millions of destinies, billions of star systems. There's that pull again. That primal urge that no matter what walk of life you chose, what king you killed, or what was once in your cargo racks, there's the void, and it calls you. Everyone I've ever played with gets to this point. Whether that's 10 hours in, the primary motivation for the purchase, or after a lifetime of power play struggles, we all end up here, once again wondering, what is out there? The last tenet of Elite Dangerous. You are not that important. As of 2023, 9 years on from the first full release, the amount of star systems that had been visited, 236 million. 219,997. Sounds like a lot. Sounds like 9 years of exploratory efforts from a species all but defined by their longing for the next horizon. Sounds like there's nothing left for you to do. Too late to truly explore anything new. 236 million. 219,997 star systems equate to 0.059% of the galaxy. You are not that important. You're nothing. A nothing in a carefully, cautiously engineered sea of nothing.
Commander Slot, year 33,000 and 11, August 23, at your region.
Do you think there's a king out here somewhere? Some royal slumbering, keeping tabs on it all? Maybe, but maybe not. Those space vibrations faithfully bore around our proud Aniara's last communique. On widening rings and spheres and cupolas, it moved through empty spaces, thrown away.
In anguish sent by us in Aniara, our call sign faded till it failed. Aniara. Canto number 4 from Harry Martinson's story about the colony ship Aniara. It was a simple trick. It had done it countless times before, carrying people to Mars and Venus after the end of Earth. A simple shuttle of 2 or so weeks, the 8,000 souls on board, ready to finally start their new life. A rogue asteroid, a meteor swarm, a narrow escape, a daring maneuver, a damaged spaceship. Life support systems, A-OK. Artificial gravity still functional, electrical, lighting, all fine. The Aniara was okay, no loss of life. But she can't turn, and she can't slow down. Now, pointed off into deep space, the best that would-be colonizers could hope for was a heavenly body to slingshot them back towards Mars. 2 years extra. Tops. Year 2. The Aniara is self-sustaining. Food is being grown, energy is being recharged. Theoretically, they could go on like this forever. The people on board are drenching their sorrows, forgetting their current situation via the Mimo, a high-tech device allowing visitors to completely envelop themselves in images, sounds, and experiences from all of humanity's past, to soak up all anxiety, all negativity, all sadness, and just dream away of a better place. Year 3. Mima is dead. Not even a third in. A hopeless situation made bearable simply through their connection to what the world was before the end, now completely lost. Aniara explores the never-ending, what it's like coming face to face with absolute finality and then having it go on forever and ever and ever. I read parts of it when I was younger, enthralled by the vivid images it painted up before me, but lost track of the structure in what is essentially a 200-page poem. Every year I would read a little further, understand a little bit more, desperately reaching out to that question of what is out there, until one day it reached back. For me, Aniara is maybe the most important story ever told. Written completely in the author's original voice, it lacks any pretense of Hollywood, of overblown producer visions or commodification. It was a pioneer, and it's truly like nothing else. And on top of that, as a fan of science fiction, of space travel, and of tales of the final frontier, Aniara was the only one that truly captured the horrifying beauty of it all. Until Elite Dangerous.
Here I am, 60,000 light years out from that mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, 60,000 light years from the place where a mere 60 years took us from terra firma to daring to venture out, 60,000 light years from home, on a lifeless, quiet rock careening senselessly through the cosmos in the Acheron region of the Milky Way. And I'm the first person ever to stand here. According to the player-run Elite Dangerous star map, just visiting the rest of the nearly 400 billion systems would take the community 44,066 years, 1 month and 14 days. Odds are I'm the only one who will ever stand here. That's the horrifying beauty of Elite Dangerous, because just like Aniara and its grandiose tale, totally unlike its contemporaries, told in a completely offbeat way, almost immune to commercialization, so is the universe. And above all, that is what Elite captures. To stand on the edge of the endless void and look out is something we've always done. But Elite allows us to take the plunge. The sheer size of it. Completely incomprehensible. Anywhere you zoom in on the galaxy map, countless new stars flicker to life, new systems, new worlds, all there for you to visit. Any glance upward reveals a night sky full of possibilities, and in true Todd-esque ethos, if you can see it, well, you can go there. So you gear up, be it a full refit of the cutter, stripping paint, tossing out hardpoints and cargo racks to eke out as many light years jump range as you possibly can, a purpose-built Phantom or DBX or something utterly ridiculous. You succumb to the pull. 10 jumps, 30 jumps, 50, 100, 300, soon into the thousands, you lose count. Systems, planets, worlds stretching on forever, places no one has ever visited before you. New species, new phenomena, completely untouched sights. Thousands of light years from absolutely anyone. The void calls you. The void speaks to you. The void is your home. As wide as an ocean, as deep as a puddle. I can't remember the amount of times I've read this exact line about Elite Dangerous. This idea that its systems only hold up for a tiny amount of the world, that it offers an ungodly amount of playable space, but nothing to do in that space. And it's not like I don't see the reason for this statement. Comparing it to its biggest contemporaries, I think it's impossible not to, but that's what's so appealing. Bethesda's Starfield takes a tried and tested format and applies it to its own galaxy. Thousands of systems to visit on top of an already pretty steady RPG foundation. CIG's Star Citizen has fewer systems planned, but the amount of detail and activity in them skyrockets to ridiculous heights, while Hello Games' No Man's Sky might actually offer more space than Elite, a gigazillion star systems, all with alien races, base building, survival mechanics, and even more activities added in post-launch updates every couple months. These are all tremendous experiences if they offer what you're looking for, and yeah, their puddle is most likely a little bit deeper, but they lack something that only Elite revels in. The void, the silence, that carefully, cautiously engineered sea of nothing.
Brought home to me how small we all are and how massive space is, and the distance between planets in the game and the scale of the universe is accurately modelled, and it's just mind-blowing, the distances and the time it takes to travel.
There are a lot of things about it that amaze me, but the more I learn, the more sort of science we put into it, which I know doesn't matter to a lot of people. It matters a lot to me, but it's that richness, that feeling that I'm exploring something real. And then when I look back at a constellation in which the sun is one of the little dots, that's real, and that's what you really would see from that distance.
Which I know doesn't matter to a lot of people, but it matters to me. What a way to make a piece of art, let alone a multi-million-dollar one. Just like that, all the pieces fall into place. Just like the book that captured young me's imagination so incredibly, but took years to understand because of its esoteric nature. Elite Dangerous is the same thing. The void, the endless night, it isn't an oversight. It doesn't represent a lack of content. It is the content. The fact that you can look up into Elite's night sky and use it to navigate by the stars, the accurate distances, and attention to actual, real astronomical details, that's what's making it into what it is. One of my favorite things I've seen from the community is the response when new players complain about the emptiness, that there are 400 billion star systems and only one known alien race. Well, so go out there and discover another one. It'll take 44,000 years to chart the rest, so odds are in your favor. Something is out there, or it isn't. But you'll never know sitting here.
A game designed for one single question, one single primal pull, the call of the unknown. Elite Dangerous might not be post-apocalyptic fiction in the same sense that other more grounded tales are, and how it shows you a piece of our home and how it was after it ended. But from this view, you wouldn't know. Here, the Earth, the Sun, the solar system, everything our species ever achieved and accomplished isn't even a distant speck. 60,000 light years off, if it all exploded now, you'd never know. And so, out here in the void, the details we so cling to, the blades of grass crushed underfoot forever betraying our sneaky ambitions, the discarded memories of a childhood, the choked up dreams, the books, for the last time placed upon the table as the evacuation siren rang, they all fall away, given space for nothing. True end of everything. Because as other terrestrial stories painfully remember humanity's biggest missteps, the wrong move, be it operator negligence, government overreach, or the design flaw that almost poisoned an entire continent, forever defining the next step of our species. Elite remembers the longful upward glances, the enthralling views giving way to lifelong dreams of exploration, the biggest leap humanity ever were to take, the final frontier, the unknown, the black, the void, the forever, the longing defining our species since we first dared to ask. So, what's next? The stumbles and the strides. What else is there to remember? Well, maybe the most central thing of all, the fact that none of us will see it.
Upon life's outcry, time does increase speed, prolongs the very second when you burst. How terror blasts inward, how horror blasts outward. How grim it always is, one's detonation. Yeah. Wide enough apertures. Well, at least if I die, it's on tape. You know, that has to be like a little bit of like a solace.